Oh, because
And I know
you
it's
do.
different when they
Yeah,
do that.
when you're new, sometimes I had to look at the paper right and
Let me verify.
I didn't get as good as Ron either.
Take serious.
He was right in love with Ron, and it just gets more and more and more. And then now he's doing something. He still does, but not as much as he, if he doesn't.
It's just a standard.
He's moving from the city and
Oh, is that what it
more in the
is?
city.
They should be
Yeah,
doing
and
that
outside
side
of
to
it.
That's why we extended
Yeah.
so, you know, I said we do.
Well, she still does some good stuff up here in Oakland.
Yeah.
Right, the whole house of
That has to be
Now,
sent
she
to
actually gets
the HUD.
copies of
Excuse me, Miss Lee.
And they get.
You the rest of before you sit down.
Okay, just
Gotta break up the form.
What that ultimately means.
Oh, there you go,
They don't
man.
get behind his.
Somebody finna come and do something to me?
You got all these papers, Mitch.
Oh, yeah.
We're the.
So you can know what's happening.
Legislative, Jennifer
Bro, this is about your city, in your ward. You don't wanna know
No,
what
it's not.
About
Oh,
placements to President Wilson and the rest of council members.
Yeah, we haven't got it.
Good paper.
And that was one thing that I thought
A
that.
lot of times we
Wow.
get stuff from Germany.
No better than an inquiry.
Don't tell them.
But no,
the paper
anytime I
man
think
that.
we might have something between me and you.
Kill.
Which include time and physical expenses of the church.
Give me a bag of chips.
Yes, thank you. Anything too?
Did you see him?
No, I just didn't say it wasn't coming. Yeah. So you're gonna have to share both meetings.
We do have a presentation.
Are you sending it out to the ones that signed
Then you
it
just wanted to go short.
first, or you want
That makes sense.
I was supposed to be in church with you on Sunday, but they actually came and picked me up on my way.
No,
A bag of chips, right?
I'm out.
Okay.
It's just money.
Do you or Monica?
All right.
Just that.
Whatever you ask me to do.
Well, you tell me, because, I don't know how you guys keep track.
Does that
I know it's all.
You do one or does the other?
And this hasn't had a chance to make arrangements.
Which one? Make the call, whichever one.
Do you wanna separate? One do one and one do the other?
Okay, that's fine.
What do you feel good at?
Did you see
We
the
usually
two-sided
do
card?
both. You can have, you're both comfortable for that. We usually, the same person does the same one, usually.
Except under the new rules where it's supposed to change what it is, didn't have a chance to make arrangements because her mom's in ER.
Prayer,
I'll pray.
I did
you
it
do
the
the
last
prayer,
time.
the
I'll
pledge of
pray.
allegiance.
Yeah, I'll pray. Thank you.
Okay.
That's good.
It's a two-sided card.
Put our picture right.
Well, you didn't get a
Mom's
chance to
in
see
ER.
the free one that's coming out of that one, so well, it dropped
I
down.
guess she's in there.
Did you get one, man?
She's getting free.
No.
I'm trying to see who else got, Vicky got one?
That one,
That card that dropped down.
Oh, you got one?
Did you get one?
Oh.
Let's see if I can find prescribers.
Davina too.
Yeah, can't do Davina.
I gotta talk to you about that.
Well, this shouldn't take long.
What we working on, Vicky, what are we waiting on?
Scott and Davina.
Oh, yeah, we can't do them without Davina. I didn't realize you were there. How was your vacation?
Actually really good. It was short though, you know.
Okay. They always are too short. Did you go anywhere or just?
Nope, I did. I have a daughter and 2 grandchildren in Las Vegas, so me and my other daughter that's here with me flew there, and then we took them to Sedona for a couple days, the Grand Canyon. So
I was just in Vegas
That's
in
classic.
April. My baby sister lives there, and her only daughter was having her first granddaughter. And so I got to be there, see their little great babies.
although I think the weather was probably a little cooler for you, but it wasn't. It was 110.
Oh, no, I love it, I know. You know, that's the only place that it could be 110 and my straightener will not frizz up.
Oh, really?
Oh.
It's a vibe.
How are you?
Sedona is too.
Did you go to the sunset business meeting the other day?
No.
I didn't either. I worked during the day, and I just couldn't go.
I heard your interview today. Did they do it over the phone or were you there at the station?
Which one?
From somewhere? This morning?
I did it I did before I left.
Oh, okay. 'Cause I thought it sounded like it was pre-recorded.
Yeah, I did before.
Very good.
You don't have very good.
Very good. Compared to the other two.
He was supposed to have my other two too.
And the guy, he's just too.
Yeah.
I know there's some stuff you guys talking about.
For council, for the most part, it's for the council meeting.
Oh, okay. So I don't have to worry about anything.
That's my birthday. You didn't know I'd get back this fast. The store's still open downstairs.
Or is that something
Oh, yeah, that cost, they said the bag of chips don't cost $1 no more. So you give me a dish, whole dish, but I keep going.
we're supposed to be applications?
Well, look,
Right, I have a resolution to stand for
next
that.
to Miss Willis, y'all would take care of it. Stop, jealous.
Is that gonna happen?
It should, it's just.
You gotta take it to court.
The override,
Okay.
because that
You
goes
probably
to-
get $30
Is there none for
Well, there is the silver.
Oh, that's in the, that'll be in.
Just seeing.
There's still only 3 items.
You know, they
Five
say
years.
Would it be safe to say?
well, they gotta pay. I told you to get me up to pay stuff. And buy me one of the cars.
That's
No, I appreciate that. Civilized.
Kristen, she's like,
With a car. Rental car.
maybe she'll respond. Welcome back. Yeah. Hey, Reed.
Looks like you got some sun.
Every day. Long time to bring up at night, and one morning, and quit at night.
Yeah, what's this? Yeah,
It rained like 2 nights, we had 2 really good thunderstorms, and that was about it. We were actually, we were in Paris, and then a little bit of northern France, and then southern France. Yeah, I expected it to be hotter, but it was like, it was 95 the week before we were there, and then it cooled down, and we actually had a rainstorm in the south of France the first night, like a really big thunderstorm, it was kind of awesome, because we rented this house, and it was kind of cool to be.
It's like the warm weather.
Yeah, we were in Provence. We weren't right on the sea, we were more in the lavender area, up in the Lugano, like the mountains. It was phenomenal. I had the two, but I was really excited. I'm not a huge fan of really hot weather, but the lavender comes in like June.
Okay, I'm calling the Special Affairs Committee to order, please. It's July 10th, 2017. May we have roll call?
Mr. Mays?
Present.
Ms. Hopler? Ms. Fields?
Present.
Mr. Winfrey?
Present.
Ms. Galloway?
Present.
Ms. Van Buren?
Present.
Mr. Kincaid?
Present.
Okay,
Madam Chair,
yes.
170378, this is an extension for, property taxes and special assessments because of the RTAP delay in adopting the budget. Waiting to see, how that process went.
Point of order.
Yes.
Yeah, we had agreed in committee meeting that we would have a executive session with the first order of business requested and agreed upon in committee.
Okay, appreciate that question. From what I was told, no request was made forward to the committee, so that's why it's not on the agenda.
Madam Chair, in fact, it was made and agreed upon.
I think there's some type of paperwork or something have to come from the law office.
No, it don't. You can just simply request it, even at this point, you can request it. When I read the law on a executive session, we could be out on the floor and some come up and you request one. That's what the law said. And that one was requested and agreed upon in committee meeting.
Well, I was informed earlier, this is how it was, and I'm sorry, and we shall continue.
So, Madam Chair, you're saying that you're gonna override the request of the body?
No, I'm just saying your point of order is being denied at this point, 'cause I have no further information to tell you. I can't move any further.
Madam Chair, you was in committee meeting, correct?
I'm not gonna continue any debate. I've already ruled and said it's denied. Now, if
I
we
will
can
be
continue with the
overruling, Madam Chair.
resolution. Support?
Can I ask, what are you appealing?
Her ruling that, my point of order as it relates to the executive session that was approved is out of order.
Is that what you ruled, that it was out of order?
Right, because I have no further information other than it's not on there. I was told the process was not completed.
I'll support, and I do wanna have a discussion, just really quick, so.
Okay, support, discussion?
I do have something. As a council, we are required to operate in a level of leadership that is respected by everyone. And I'm not gonna say who didn't hear, but I'm going to say I did hear. I did hear a request for an executive session. I too was under the impression that there was going to be an executive session. I don't know if any of my other colleagues heard that. And so, I can honestly say that when I came in, I looked at it and only Councilman Mays and I were here at the time. And I said, I thought we were having an executive session. And so I just wanna go on record to say, I don't know where that came from, but we need to operate in a way that is fair. So Councilwoman Galloway was under the impression we were having an executive session as well. I just wanna go on record saying that.
Okay, Davina?
I think we would have to talk to the attorney, but lately, when motions are made, we still have to do the referral, and then she produces a memo from our referral, is my understanding. So, I never put them on until I get a memo from the attorney's office, because that's what we were requested as of late. So when we didn't get a memo from the attorney's office, we did not put it on the agenda.
And can I just ask a question, since she's answering to what I said? why weren't we notified as council that we were waiting for that? Because Attorney Wheeler was here, we were dialoguing back and forth, and she was saying yes, she could, and there were even some questions being asked to say, when you do come, can you have an answer to this as well? And so I just wanna know, what do we do as council that that Davina, you guys get, who do you notify to say, hey, I know you guys talked about executive session, but we haven't heard from the legal team yet. What do you want us to do?
Normally,
Okay.
you guys will do a referral. I'd like to make a referral or make a motion that we have the executive session. We'll do it as a referral.
Right.
Normally, she'll wait till she gets the referral in. Sometimes, not that often, she will just prepare a memo. But until we get that memo from the city attorney's office, we don't put it on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, Councilwoman Fields, please.
I'd just like to say that I remember the city clerk talking about this because, there was a request, and I don't remember who made it, but to add things to an existing executive session, and, Ms. Brown said that, no, it has to be printed on the agenda, that we don't have an executive session that isn't on the agenda. I do recall her saying that. So if the process is such that we didn't get the referral out in time, or we didn't get the request, if it's not on the agenda, I don't believe we should hold one.
Okay, attorney?
This request was made, I believe that was last Monday. And, oh yeah, that's right, because it was, okay, I knew there was a different, yeah, it was last Thursday's committee meeting because of the 4th of July holiday, the meeting was switched to the Thursday, and the request came from the city council. So normally, I would not prepare the request for executive session because the law department's not making the request. Nevertheless, the body has the authority to make its own request for an executive session, which was made on that date. So, I mean, like I said, this is different what's going on right now, but I'm just saying, it was clearly recorded that it was requested, and those who were present here are aware of that.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
there was no objections to the request. As a matter of fact, when Ms. Galloway tried to delve into something we talked about, that was before the executive, it's the same subject matter, but this executive session and request was clearly made, and it was even noted with our staff. And so that's why we looked to see why it's missing on the agenda. So you were here, there was no objections to that executive session. As a matter of fact, we even made sure that it was okay with everybody present, and we thought for sure it would be an agenda item because I even talked about the new rules and the president making sure it was on there. So that's what the record will reflect. Clearly, we walked in here thinking we would see an agenda, and then to go a step further, state law says that you can ask for an executive session at any time, whether it's on the agenda or not. I see Mr. Kincaid seem to be nodding in the affirmative. So even without it on the agenda, if something come up legally, even if it's on the floor, that's state law. So we're debating some about the agenda, and we could do it now fresh, and it would still be a legitimate request. But this one was agreed upon. And that's why I'm saying we should be in executive session.
Councilman Kincaid.
Yeah, I wasn't here, so just bear with me for a minute. The executive session was for a request for what?
If I may, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, the executive session was to discuss the lawsuit between the MDEQ and the council. We want to know where we're at procedurally. We want to talk about, do we get our own lawyers? We want to talk about, do we submit 3 names? And the things as it relates to that proceeding, we have not heard any. There were some additional things that we want to talk about as well.
I can answer a couple of those questions because
Can I add to that? I wanted to understand how our contract had anything to do with violating the concerned pastor settlement.
And
So that was something that, okay.
And the only thing I wanna say is and Angela and I had a couple of conversations, right?
Right, but I think that was, like I said, is it gonna be a part of this open session, or is that gonna be part of a
what the
separate private
part
session?
I wanna do mine in open session, Angela. I mean, because my discussion was to request outside legal counsel, and I submitted 3 names to
Point
them.
of order though.
We approved those.
Point of order. We trying to see if we can stick with a certain order. This is on the appeal of the chair. If,
Okay.
you know,
I'm done.
I'm just saying, Scott.
I do have a question about the 3 names.
Okay,
Point of order, if we overrule her ruling, we can get into that. I mean, I wasn't trying to be funny.
I've been recognized by the chair. I would say that when we go into executive session, from what I've seen in the past, we have to state clearly why we're going into executive session, because we don't wanna violate the Open Meetings Act, and there are only certain reasons why you can do a closed session. So I don't know if a generic discussion is enough to go into executive session. I don't know.
So who-
If you,
how
or
do
if
you
we need a
determine-
case number,
Point-
I don't know.
Point of order, or point of information, either way. Is this gonna determine how our individual members vote on the point of order? I'm eager to get into this dialogue, but I'm still hoping that the chair entertains that we had a legitimate point of order. That's what I'm trying to get a ruling on.
well, you put in for an appeal, right? So
Yeah,
should we
'cause
vote
you
on
were
that
saying
appeal?
we won't. When we feel it's time.
Well, I think it'd be time, so that way we know what direction we're going. So we do have it where you did make that appeal and it was seconded. So if, those that are in favor of the appeal say yes,
Yes.
so that's 3. And those that are against the appeal,
Yes,
that's 4.
appeal
So
fails.
that means we move on with the resolution Mr. Kincaid was talking about, I guess, and we'll circle
And
back.
the only thing I wanna say is that, we need to approve this resolution to give, homeowners and property owners the ability to pay without having a, penalty, because of the timeliness of the RTAB in the mailing out of the taxes and special assessments. I think we're extending it, 3 weeks or a month?
To August 15th, usually due July 31st.
Yeah, so we're gonna extend it for another 15 days, so.
Thank you.
So I would move this resolution to council for approval.
Support?
The administration bought an amended version of the resolution. The dates were wrong.
Oh.
It says on here 378, but it's actually not gonna be 378, it's gonna be 378.1. So you need to actually make a motion to amend it to this new.
I move to amend the resolution to 378.1.
Support.
And we had to do this last year, didn't we? Because of the RTAB again? Yep.
Okay, your question?
Chair,
Yes, question.
I guess to Don. Okay, so when are the property taxes coming out?
They should be out by the end of the week.
They're being
processed right now.
I was hoping you were saying somewhere.
Oh,
Nothing doing all this. That's actually.
Well, you hit a lady.
Just the first installment.
That's enough.
Okay, any further discussion on 17037.8.1? Okay, those that are in favor of moving it to council, say aye.
Aye.
No,
Because we vote on
the
the
amendment.
Oh, I'm sorry. To vote on the amendment, those that, do we have a support on
Yes.
Okay. that? Those that are in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
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 Those that are opposed? Okay, now we vote on the 17037.8.1. Those that are in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Make a
David,
motion.
Move it to
Yeah, it's
council.
been,
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay,
Madam Chair,
yes.
I have some questions about our next item, 170379. Who is here from the administration that could respond to that? Mr. Davis? Okay, here's my question. Do we have bid tabs for this position? Was this bid out? Since we're hiring a company,
They were the only ones that we could get to.
well, was there an open solicitation?
I can answer some of this.
No, there was not. This is a matter, and I don't know if you've read your resolution yet, but basically it sets forth the circumstances in which we had to get someone in to be an operator for the city of Flint. The person who was put in the position after Ms. McDay put in a 2 weeks notice, so we had to move pretty swiftly to get someone into the position. And so that's why this is before you now.
Is there anyone here from HR? I'd like to speak to someone from HR, thank you, Mr. Davis, about this, because I think this is procedurally very incorrect to hire a company to have them fill a position. I just want to make sure that it's not violating any of our HR policies.
Also, I can just mention to you that I have, along with Derek Jones, consulted with them to make sure that we are in compliance, that they can speak for themselves, but I just want to let you know that because of the amount of the agreement, we needed to go ahead and get someone in the position right away. We have to have someone operating at the city who has the requirements. And so we cannot go for any period of time without having an operator who has those requirements. But this is something that will be set up through a purchase order. And because the amount is not over that threshold, we were able to go ahead and implement this. Also, there was another requirement because of the type of work to make sure that the unions were notified. And I know that Mr. McClendon can also speak to that.
Well, Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would just like, I would have no problem moving this to council, but I would like, Mr. McClendon and Mr. Derek Jones to be available for questions at council, because I don't think this is, and I understand the urgency, I understand the need to legally have somebody in this position at our water treatment plant, but it's a slippery slope to start ignoring regular procedures and processes for employment, and I just don't want to violate that. So is there any way that we could ask for those individuals to be present at tonight's council meeting?
Can we call them and ask them if they can, are available or?
I have a question on
Who do we want to contact?
HR and Derek Jones.
Let me check.
Both purchasing and
I don't know if Derek is there. Is that?
Okay, which
And
two is,
HR.
okay, Councilwoman.
Tia Lewis if possible. Mr. McClendon's not available.
Councilwoman Galloway?
Well, one of the questions that I have is this salary comparable? I mean, it seems like a lot, and I don't have a problem paying a lot. But it just seems like one of the obstacles that we've been told from Rich Baird and others that we can't afford to pay a certified person that we would need at our water treatment plant. And so I'm wondering, how was the salary appropriated? Because I see, according to this letter, that they submitted and say, we propose this amount. What did we do to make sure that that was appropriate or that we could afford it? And I don't know, are you guys able to answer that?
I don't know how to what degree. I can just say that with regard to the amount, one, the person isn't getting any benefits. from the city to do this. And this is meant to be really a temporary fix while all the things that we're trying to do as far as water and where things are going to in the future. So this should not be the be all and end all. Okay, this can't be the whole thing. But like I said, I can't answer.
Because I'd like to know what the person that accepted the position was making. Because you said there was somebody that took the position after. Right. And then they turned in their 2-week notice. Right. I just would be interested in knowing what we entered into an agreement with that person.
The same salary that Jolisa McDade was making.
Well, even I don't know what
I'm sorry, I don't know what it is. I just want you to know that
what
I can tell you.
Two. Right.
Yeah, like I said, I can't tell
that
you.
Makes sense.
But I do want you to know that it was the same amount.
Okay.
Hey, Councilman Mays?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I would move 170379, the council understanding that you still will have time for discussion, understanding that some people are really maybe coming up, but it should have been dealt with in committee. But I would move it to council, knowing it can be postponed, sent back, or approved. So
Point of information.
I would move it.
Point of information.
Okay, and your point of information?
Well, Councilman Mays, was this on the committee meeting? You said it should have been dealt with in committee.
I don't recall,
Okay.
but I move it to council.
Okay.
Okay, discussion, okay?
I just have a question. Angela, the person that worked at the water treatment plant for I don't know how many years, Mr. Glasgow, he was charged. All charges were dropped against him.
Point of information. I think that there was agreements made as it relates to Glasgow on lesser charges.
What's the point of information?
Did you realize
Oh, okay. Did you? Okay.
that it was, are you familiar that it's a possibility that there was agreements made for lesser charges than all charges?
I just read that all charges were dropped against him.
I think there was some agreement.
Okay.
So he's not being charged for anything.
I'm not comfortable to answer that right now. I mean,
Okay.
especially.
Well,
right
my
here
question
in this-
is that he was a long-term employee, he was an F1. If he worked here X amount of years, and he's either probably gonna file a lawsuit, or he's probably got a grievance filed, or whatever. Instead of hiring an outside consultant, if we have an employee here, and I'm just gonna guess 15 years or 20 years, however many years he's got, and all charges have been dropped or whatever, and I don't know why we wouldn't consider bringing that person back to work if there were no wrongdoing in his charges by the state. Now, I don't know, I didn't follow it to see whether or not he had some plea agreement or anything like that, but if that's the case, then that's different. But if not, and there's the opportunity to bring him back, then I think we ought to consider bringing him back so that one, he's got an F1 license, and two, if he's got 20 years here, I hate to see anybody lose their retirement. So that's all I have.
Okay, I have Attorney Wheeler, Councilwoman Fields, and Councilwoman Poplar.
I was gonna say, if you wanna talk about Mr. Glasgow, it'd probably be better to talk about it in executive session.
And that's, I just was raising the point, Angela.
Okay, Councilwoman Fields?
Well, I just wanted to say that a couple things. I also would like to ask Sam Luma to be available if he's not on vacation, if he's around, because as I understand it, this is actually a union position. So
It's not his, well,
it's not his. I thought it was his
not
union.
Lewis. Well, no, actually, I can answer this. Mr. Glasgow was a utilities manager. I don't think he was covered by the union.
This position
this
that they're trying to.
I don't know. I
Well,
can't answer that.
Well, I'd like to know.
Sorry,
It was exempt.
exempt, that's what I thought.
Okay, well, and then I guess we don't have to ask Mr. Muma, but my other question is, I'd like somebody to explain, why we're paying all this money for a D1 and not an F1. I thought we had to have an F1.
No, the plan as it is right now is operating as D1, it's not F1.
You said one though. The first one.
Councilwoman Papa?
Right, they have,
Wait a
that's
minute.
higher, that's a higher
Wait a minute, I
level.
wasn't finished.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
Councilwoman Galloway asked about the salary. Okay, if this position is a D1 and the salary is the same as Jolisa McDay, didn't she have an F1? Why are we paying a D1 the same salary as an
I
F1?
didn't say that, I said that the previous person who was replaced Jolisa McDay made the same salary.
From what,
Yes.
what level did that person have?
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Under the new rules I read that Ms. Fields wrote, if Ms. Poplar has something in this discussion, Ms. Fields is up a second time. And from her own rules, it should be at Ms. Poplar and anybody else who hasn't
I'm sorry, but Mrs. Fields had not finished what she was saying,
She
so
spoke
I
first
had
on
jumped
this
the gun.
issue, point of
So-
order, she spoke first. You know the new rules? She
Yes.
made them. She
Yes.
spoke first. She started out the conversation, Ms. Poplar wanna speak. I'm here to tell you, that's the rules she made on the discussion item.
Thank you. Davina?
I was going to bring up that you are now operating under the new rules, so everyone is technically only supposed to speak twice to each question, meaning each agenda item. 5 minutes total. If you don't use up your 5 minutes, then it's just gone. So I can start keeping track with the timer. I was gonna wait till we got into the council, but technically under this meeting, you also can only speak twice to the question, so you talk for 5 minutes straight.
Yeah.
And
Point
then you gotta wait until everybody goes around in 5 minutes straight, and then that's it.
Ain't no
So-
bank, for the point of order, it ain't banking time, and I noticed Ms. Poplar under Ms. Fields' rules, Ms. Fields shouldn't be back talking on this until after. Ms.
Everybody's
Poplar.
broken the rules so far this meeting.
Well, I haven't, don't say everybody, I'm watching it close.
You've spoken twice.
Okay, well, I'm not
Okay,
going,
Okay,
if you wanna be appointed to parliamentarian under these rules, I'm
No.
So
gonna ask
do we
that it
continue
be
with
answered.
Councilwoman Poplar?
But I will
Councilwoman
start keeping
Poplar.
track.
Just one little question. It says the salary includes drive time. Is that drive time from his home to here? Or drive time around the city? Can somebody answer that?
I'm gonna go back to the contract and review it real quick, and I can let you know.
Thank you. I'd like to know if he's local or coming out of Lansing.
Point of information, Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilman.
Would you ask Ms. Davina, do she think Herb Winfrey done broke him as well since everybody had? He ain't said nothing. Even.
I'm sorry, we still had Councilwoman Poplar still asking a question. If someone can answer the question.
Yeah, Angela's.
I'm not gonna be able to answer it right now, I gotta read it first, okay?
Okay.
Okay, just from everything that's being brought up, there is a lot of questions on this position. I don't think we have the appropriate people in here that we need to have. I don't feel comfortable voting on this. So I don't know if you still want to move it to council, so we can bring up more questions and hopefully, we'll have some staff joining us. I know we have a motion on it and support. Any further discussion?
Could I make an additional referral for Mr. Benzick to be here as well?
I don't know, he's making the contact. They expecting you to make the
He's
contact?
off work today.
It's after 5, I don't know who I could get in touch with.
Right. So we need to take care of the motion that's on hand. Those that are in support of this motion of moving it to council, say yes.
Aye.
Those that are against, say no. Sound like ayes have it to move it to council.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would move 170380 to council.
Discussion? No discussion, those that are in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those that are opposed, ayes have it.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would ask for an executive session on
Resolution.
I would ask that we go into executive session on the matters that we had discussed earlier concerning the pending litigation as against counsel. And, Mr. Kincaid raised an issue as it related to, Mr. Glasgow, and the city attorney talked about that issue in executive session. I would request an executive session on those two matters at this time.
Okay, that was Glasgow, and what was the other one?
The lawsuit that's pending surrounding the matters that Ms. Galloway and I had into
Okay,
Add-on resolutions.
okay, so can we take you to executive session?
Finish the resolutions.
Okay, we still have an add-on resolution before we can get to that part. Who is that, the commission?
Suzanne. Point of information.
Yes.
When we have a motion on the floor, is it appropriate for us to look at this resolution? Like, when do we learn about this resolution?
I just checked with Davina, she said we have to take care of the resolution first.
So we had a
But did we
motion.
know about the resolution before the motion was made?
She brought it to my attention at the beginning of the
But
meeting.
the point of order would be that it was a motion and support.
And so did we,
Who
where's
supported
the
the
motion in that? I did. Herb was, supporting it at the same time. So it wasn't.
Now,
just-
if y'all want us to withdraw the motion and we'll
Right.
try it again later, I'll withdraw the motion, but we didn't know. So I'll withdraw the motion to entertain this, but really,
I'll
Madam
withdraw
Chair,
my support.
it was a motion. So we'll withdraw.
Huh?
Well, you support it.
Right.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I guess the resolution number is what?
Add-on number 1.
Add-on number 1. Madam Chair, I would move add-on number 1, the council.
do I have support?
Support.
Madam Chair.
Okay, I think we have a presentation, do we, from Suzanne?
Sure. The resolution that you have in front of you is the resolution to set the public hearing for the action plan for July 24th of 2017. This year, we obviously have a late start. We went through a review process. We had several of the city council members appointed representatives to a CWAC body. That body met and provided recommendations, which are under review and being finalized right now, but we are trying to set the public hearing for July 24th.
Point of information.
Yes.
Did not that citywide advisory committee get held up at the RTAB?
So the citywide advisory committee body itself was not an official body. The review committee, which we have operated before with review committees, there were representatives appointed, nominated to a review committee that we utilized for this process. There were two wards that did not recommend any names for the committee, so 2 wards were not represented, but there were 7 wards represented and participated in the review process, as well as 2 representatives from the administration, one of whom is here tonight, Carmel Lewis, and then also Lynn Williams from she actually lives in Ward 5, but she was with the Community Foundation. So that group, along with CED staff, reviewed the applications that were submitted and made recommendations. We are not, at this point, this resolution is not the resolution to publish the recommendations. We want to give you an opportunity to review those recommendations. I have a timeline which has been updated and I'll pass out to everyone, but we are looking to have the recommendations to this group by Friday, along with our draft consolidated plan. And then we will not, publish the recommendations until the following Friday, the 20th. So, thank you.
Madam
So this resolution is just to set the public hearing date of July 24th.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna support the resolution to, set the public hearing, but I also wanna make a referral that whoever this group was that's making these recommendations, I'm kinda confused from what I'm hearing now. I want a list of who these people were,
Sure.
because I'm trying to figure out who's making these recommendations, and then specifically, if you had 7 wards represented, I wanna know if the first ward was.
The first word was represented,
By who?
Mr. Sean Harrison.
That's who was, the appointment to the citywide
Correct.
advisory from me, and that body was, I thought, held up.
So the body itself, the official body, there was no official CWAC body. However, per the conversation that we had last year with the city council, what we wanted to do was to have a review committee. If you remember, there were some concerns last year. The recommendations were made to the city council from the administration without citizen input. So regardless of whether there was a CWAC official body or not, we wanted to have a group, which we have done in the past, and many of you may be remembering the Joint Review Committee, which was not necessarily a city council appointed body, but we have gone through processes in the past where there are review committees that were established, and what we were trying to do was be compliant with your recommendations last year that citizens be involved in the review process.
If I may, Madam Chair.
Yes.
And then finally, I would request that this be talked about or put on the next governmental operations, committee agenda, and Ms. Wilcox, I would hope that you would be here, because even though it was our wishes, it's been my wishes all along to vote for individuals separately and not be forced to vote in a group. I was a no vote on the forcing in a group. And so believe me, I hear what you're saying, but the way government operates, I have no objections to citizens' input, but to me, if some people on this council would hit the ceiling if it was a way to bypass certain things that should go on, depending on how everybody felt. So I'm making that referral, if I may, Madam Chair, under these rules. I used to could put it on an agenda, but I'm asking this subject be put on a governmental operations agenda, Madam Chair, and that we discuss the details. And, I'm gonna support it. I ain't tripping, but it's just something we need to discuss.
Sure.
So we had a referral. Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I hope you can get that on.
Did you have your hand up? Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Wilcox, you said that the CWAC was not an official body. What does it take for them to be official?
My understanding, and I heard this later, but my understanding is that, the ordinance that was adopted, is, and probably you can speak to this better than I can, Councilman Kincaid, but the ordinance that was adopted was not an official ordinance because it was under one of the emergency manager orders. And in order for it to be actually adopted, that emergency manager order would have to be repealed.
Thank you.
Point of information.
Yes.
Do she believe that Ms. Wheeler could speak on it as well?
Amen.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, I can't think of which specific EM order to identify, but that is pretty much the gist of it, is that for it to be repealed, you'll have to go back to RTAB for RTAB to override it. And I think there are a lot of things that the RTAB wants to make sure, like, so they're not overriding something that's already been in place pursuant to the EM. Some things can't be repealed until a year after, so.
Okay, Councilwoman.
I'd just like to comment at this time, I just want to make sure that all of council is aware of this, that Councilman Kincaid had been working with Mr. Hedden and actually had discussions with Mr. Baird about the repeal of Order Number 10, the grants, and had been assured numerous times that they were working on repealing that, and all of a sudden, all steps toward that stopped. And when did they stop? They stopped when we wouldn't approve the 30-year GLEWA contract. So this is yet another example, okay, of an abuse of power by the state, okay, where at one time they said, yes, we'll repeal that order, it's not appropriate, it should go, among other orders. And now they've been given, apparently, instructions to stop with that process. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of yet another abuse of power by the state and their, I don't know, trying to exert undue influence on this contract.
Okay, so we have the add-on resolution number 1, is there a motion and it was supported? Now we call for the vote, those are in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, we shall move it. And that was all that we had of add-ons, now we go back to May's request for executive session. And I think, did you make a motion and it was supported?
You withdrew though.
Do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So now with the time, I guess.
Yeah, wait, no questions.
Madam Chair, I would still move that we go into brief executive session.
Discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Just my comment, we've requested, outside legal service to represent us because we're being sued. We didn't go along with the contract the administration did. And I don't feel comfortable going into an executive session, until an attorney is presented to us and has the opportunity to review the lawsuit and report back to us. I wanna hear from someone that's gonna represent us. I don't wanna hear from the administration that supports the contract and that, is a part of the lawsuit, but is only a part of the lawsuit because it's the city. And so and it's not that I just don't feel comfortable going into an executive session, because I wanna hear from our legal representative when and if, we get one, and I'm not gonna go into an executive session today, and hear from the administration, on an executive session on the water lawsuit. So that's just where I'm at.
Okay, Councilwoman Galloway?
I just want to be clear.
I just wanna ask, how did we come to the decision on the 3 attorneys? Cause I didn't have, I didn't have any input, and I just was wondering, were we taking names? Was there
I
some-
submitted 3 names, I checked around, and I talked to Angela about them, I didn't do it, without, I talked to Carrie Nelson, I checked with some attorneys that I know that have background in contracts, and I picked, I think, two that were, no, 1 local and 2 that were non-local. And I give those names to Angela on Wednesday.
So Scott, can I ask a question?
But if somebody's got a name, they're more than happy to submit them to Angela.
No, I don't want it like that now.
Oh, okay.
But what I'm saying is, we're a council of 9. And so if we're going to have outside legal counsel, there should have been 3 names submitted. We don't have to talk about it, but it should have been made known to all of us to be able to do the research ourselves so that we could say that we were all involved. And I recognize that Carrie is the president.
Well, I was on vacation and I
Okay.
was asked to give 3 names I think I was asked on Monday. And I said, I can't do it on Monday, I'll do it Wednesday morning. So I'm done talking.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I wouldn't mind suspending these goofy rules because I can already see that they don't work. And if we gotta talk back and forth
Did
with
something
Mr.
happen? Okay, maybe,
Kincaid, I knew these rules were goofy in the first place, so I like to hear people talk more than once or twice, but I would ask that if we can't follow them, we suspend them, but
Okay, thank you for your comments, I disagree and deny.
But what you gonna
Yes.
disagree and deny, we in discussion on a
But
motion.
you're trying to take this away about rules, we are talking about trying to set up an executive session.
I don't wanna get arrested in the middle of these goofy rules.
Okay, attorney, did you have something to say?
We have.
And then Mr. Winfrey have his
Instead
hand
of
up.
disagreeing, no, we disagree on some decisions we might not approve it, but we suspend the rules, that's in support.
Okay, going back to what Councilman Mays is saying is he would like to suspend the rules. Any support on that?
Well, I had a hand up.
I know, but he raised up a point of information, a
Go
point of order.
ahead, go ahead. They can die for a lack
Are
of
we,
a
wait,
second. but
point of
that's
information, are we about to lose a quorum
in
in the middle of
this on
business?
purpose.
Could be.
Okay,
Ain't no
so,
doubt.
cause, I
You
mean,
got
we
folks
all got
moving
We
responsibilities.
around
need
here.
6 in order to do
Yeah,
for executive session.
And you also need 5 to interact and talk business
just
on some about a
inappropriate.
lawsuit that Kerry and Scott
Okay.
moving around on by
It looks like the
themselves.
meeting is adjourned and we will
Because-
meet in 10 minutes of city council.
We'll bring it out up on the floor if we can, but this is getting ridiculous
We
where
have
you
a lack
got,
of quorum.
it's getting ridiculous where you got people meeting behind the scenes, doing business, submitting lawyers' names
We
on
did take a
behalf of
list
this
of business,
council. It's just crazy. You can't act on behalf of a 9-member body, 2 people, and then the people who in cahoots with them unlawfully get up and break a quorum. This is getting ridiculous. It's outrageous. And then they make these goofy rules, and everybody and they click breaking, Scott breaking, the rule maker breaking. And the minute that I break them, you, Madam Chair, and them, y'all all is a trip. I never seen such a thing. Gonna submit lawyer's name in a lawsuit and then don't wanna discuss who you to submit on our behalf. Y'all ought to be ashamed of yourself. Backroom government, illegal government.